Hey everyone, I'm Matt Gardapi with Harley-Davidson. On this episode of Harley-Davidson's podcast, we're talking Born Free with Mike Davis. Mike, how you doing?
Hey Matt, how are you?
Me and you talk all the time, especially about Born Free. I guess I was listening to some other podcasts with you recently, and you were talking about like how you first got into motorcycles a little bit, and like what point in your life that kind of happened, and so when did that happen for you? Like when did you see like your first Steve McQueen movie or something like that? That was like, man, I got to get a motorcycle and check this out.
You know, I've always been into like mini bikes and dirt bikes as a kid. That's kind of how I got my start. But really, the street bike thing, I wasn't even really aware of it. It wasn't something that was on my radar. I got into cars and things like that as a teenager and into my early 20s, and then around 96, I think. A buddy of mine that we were doing car stuff together with showed up with this Triumph chopper, and man, I saw that thing and it just kind of blew my mind and got me interested in a street bike. And then it kind of grew from there. Got a few Triumphs and had a good time with them, and then graduated into a Harley. Got my first vintage Harley, which is a 53 Panhead, which I still have today. Just fell in love, head over heels, obsessed, took up every thought in my mind was just old motorcycles. And then now, new motorcycles, I love them all. And just, I'm still obsessed with them, and started the show around that obsession.
You talked about like, the vintage stuff kind of hitting you first. Was that kind of the same thing with like, your cars and all that stuff? Has it always been kind of more of a vintage style, or was there something specific about like, I don't know, vintage Harley stuff? Was it like the group of dudes you were hanging out with? Were they all messing around with that stuff? Or
yeah, the vintage thing for sure. Every car I had until I was about 25 was an old car. So that really, got me interested, was just the whole vintage side of everything. And then it just carried into the bike thing. When I started really digging into it and really getting into the subject and learning about it, getting books and magazines and reading whatever was out there, I just couldn't believe that I wasn't into it sooner. And it just everything in my mind was just around vintage bikes.
I've seen you guys throw on races as well, right? So there's the Stampede, there's Born Free the show, which is a custom motorcycle show. And then you guys have also done some different races and stuff like the Stampede and a couple other things. When did you get into like racing motorcycles? Because like for me, my first step was, dirt bikes and messing around. And then I got my first like street bike and was playing around on that. But I still haven't really tried racing yet. And I'm always wondering, like, how do guys get into racing?
When I was little and younger and doing all the dirt bike stuff, I never raced. It wasn't something that I was into. I loved riding tracks and jumping and all that good stuff, but going super fast or just the competitive side of it just didn't really appeal to me. It wasn't something that I was really interested in. But, riding everywhere I loved. The racing recently, it's been about, 6 or 7 years that I've been interested in it. Before we started throwing our own races, a buddy of mine does some just grassroots family fun races out here, basically about once a month. And, you just show up with whatever you got. There's a class for everybody, and you just go out and have a good time, playing the dirt. So I started bringing out like my Panhead and some street bikes to this stuff, just having a good time. And then it kind of morphed into realizing, like, hey, let me build, something that's just a little more race ready, where I'm not beating it to death or having to take the lights off every time I go out. So that kind of started, got more friends involved, and we, developed our own little tank shift class with vintage Harleys, and that was a good time. And then decided with the Born Free thing that with all the racing that was going on, it would add another element to the show. It would give us another event around the show to create more of a, 3-4 day type of event. So we hatched the Stampede, and that's about 4 years ago. Just had a ball, man. Had, all kinds of people, guys, girls, kids coming from all over the place that were coming to the show anyway. And, went to a track, put on an amazing race, and it kind of just snowballed from there. And now the racing's a big part of the show. It's a big part of the people who are coming to the show. They want to race, then they want to go have a good time seeing all the bikes. So it's just turned out really well. And then with all the other racing going on out there at other shows, it's a whole new thing, and people are really excited about it.
On that note, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit. When you first started getting into motorcycles, right? And I'm saying like later in life for street bike stuff, are you already a pretty good wrench in general? Did you do a lot of the work yourself?
I am great at taking things apart.
Same here.
I would say I'm an expert at taking things apart. Putting them
Yeah.
back together, not so good.
Yeah. Fair.
I mean, I can definitely, do a few things for sure. I don't want to downplay it too much, but I also don't want to play it up. I'm not some expert mechanic, but I've broke down on the side of the road like everybody has a million times and figured out a way to make it work. The good thing about being out here in Southern California and getting that first bike I told you about is there's an old Japanese builder out here. Actually, he's not old. He's a little older than me. Chika, if you know who he is. And I was lucky enough through a friend to be able to take my bike over there when I got it and work on it there. And he showed me a bunch of stuff, and that dude's a genius. So I kind of learned a little bit there. Didn't work for him or anything like that, so I don't want to mislead anybody. But I did get to work on my bike there. And then I had some buddies at that time who knew how to work on stuff. So kind of figured it out on your own. I mean, I'm still not great at it, but certainly can tinker around and make things work if I have to.
Yeah, man. I ask because I know for me and my personal journey into motorcycles, especially big twins and stuff, it was a hard fight uphill for a little bit there. I didn't really have a bunch of people to show me the way, in the first couple of years of it. And I had an old shovelhead that, I mean, if it wasn't for that thing breaking down all the time, I wouldn't have ever learned how to work on bikes. Yeah, it's amazing how it's all about the people around you that kind of mentor or teach you. So Mike, Born Free's been going on. It's on its 12th year now. So 12 years ago, what made you, decide? How did you come up with this idea for what Born Free was going to be, and what made you want to go, start your own bike show?
Yeah, like you said, so we're in our 12th year now, but 12 years ago, even in Southern California, which sounds pretty crazy, is there were no bike shows that really kind of catered or featured, what I liked or what my friends liked, which, at the time was mainly a vintage platform. You go to a bike show and there'd be one or two bikes, and that was great and fun, but it didn't have a lot of what we were looking for, especially with like the do-it-yourself type guys. So a buddy of mine, Grant Peterson, who's still my partner to this day, we just started chatting one day at a little motorcycle ride we were on about maybe trying to put together a ride, and with all of our friends, because all our buddies had vintage bikes, and shoot, you add up 20, 30 guys and you got a little mini show. So we decided to have a ride. Great turnout, a lot of fun. Went to an old biker bar, did that type of thing. Did it again, had a bigger turnout, and then just started chatting up a little bit more about trying to put together a proper show. And then in about a month, we hatched Born Free 1 and had it at a buddy's shop just in the front, free hot dogs, free beer. We made some old trophies. And the cool thing is we had about, 300-400 people show up, and maybe 100 bikes. But in a small shop in an alleyway, I mean, it looked pretty impressive. And, it was the time when forums were going on and blogs and that kind of thing. This is way before Instagram and even Facebook. And, word got out that this little chopper show happened, and some guys actually came from your area, Milwaukee, Chicago, and stuff like that. We had some friends come out, and it kind of grew from there. Won't bore you with all the history, but the following year we had it in Signal Hill. And we closed down a city street, Born Free 2. That kind of really put us on the map. We had about 5,000 people, a few thousand bikes, but that got a lot of coverage, again, with all the forums and the magazines that were still going on out there, websites and blogs. And that really set the stage to really put together a proper show. And it's grown since then. It went from a real kind of strict vintage bike type show to now everything and anything is there. Everything is welcome. I mean, we do a lot of stuff with new bikes and the new platforms and stuff, and it's just grown into this whole kind of Woodstock for motorcycles, if you want to call it, and really just blew our minds and every expectation, we had with the show. We never intended on even doing it past 1, and now we're at 12, with a whole new set of challenges, but everything's real positive, and we're really excited about this year.
Can you tell us some stuff you got planned for this year?
Well, the first thing I want to say, and the newest thing is we had to change our dates. So with the pandemic that's going on, we originally had June 27th to 28th, and we always do it the third or fourth week in June, depending on how the dates lay out. With what's going on, it just wasn't safe to do. As well as what's going on in our state, not being able to have the event at that time. So we've moved it out 3 months. into a safer period into the early fall. So we're now September 26th and 27th, which, we're really happy about the new date. We always do it kind of in the heat of summer, and we're getting into a little bit of the fall now. So we're hoping to have a little cooler weather, and that area is really nice in early fall. So it's going to be good there. But as far as what we're doing, we have obviously our invited builder group, which is a big part of the show. We have our new Harley builders, which is about 3-4 years in, and that's great. We got the Ives Brother Wall of Death coming back. Vans, who's one of our partners, we're doing the big vert, skateboard demo again, as well as all the other little shows within the show that happen at Born Free, from the San Diego Customs FXR and open shows. Rusty Butcher's putting together a Sportster show. We've got some art shows going on. We just had an online art contest that was fantastic and had over 200 entries from all over the world. And we're going to set up a space at the show to feature some of those artists, and hopefully some of those folks can come out. So there's just a million things going on inside the show, as well as all the bands and food and fun and, hot dog eating contest, tattoo contest, you name it, we do it.
Well, kind of hitting on that note, man, 12 years, that's amazing. So in conjunction with that, we got the No Show coming up, and Born Free and some of our other partners like Congregation and Mama Tried are going to be a part of that. I know I reached out to you eventually and pitched the No Show and what it was going to be, which is this, virtual motorcycle show to kind of support the community while everyone's kind of going through this nastiness of 2020. And just wanted to, I guess, get some of your ideas, why you wanted to be a part of this No Show, this new event that Harley's putting on.
Oh man, I think it's great. And I think you hit it right on the head. Right now everybody's been doing a whole lot of nothing, unless you are working, and you can get down, especially if you're a builder. I mean, like I said before, I'm not a builder, but these guys, especially for our show, Mama Tried, which, hopefully will get rescheduled, and same thing with Congregation. They've got a new date. There was people that were really excited about going to that show, builders building for those shows and our show as well. So even though we all hope our shows are going to happen and we're feeling real optimistic about it, having something like what you guys are doing right now, I mean, it's definitely needed. I think it's going to be super cool. Everybody that you got involved are solid people. And we're really excited about participating in it. We, offered up a few builders to have on in our camp, which, I'd love to see the progress that they're making, daily, and for you guys to feature them. We love the Mama Tried show, been out there a million times, love those dudes. And, I'm really excited to see who the builders that they've picked and what those guys are doing. And the same thing with the Congregation guys. It's just neat to see 3 different shows in 3 different areas kind of all come together under the Harley umbrella, which you guys sponsor all 3 shows, and made them really what they are today with your, all your generous support and everything you guys are willing to do. So we're super excited about it. I think people are going to be really excited to see it going on, especially on your guys' platform where maybe they haven't got to see some of the vintage stuff as much. So we're excited, man. And I can't wait to see it happen.
Yeah, man, we're definitely stoked as well. I know that's going to be coming out in June 1st is our goal right now to launch that. And yeah, it's going to be a pretty rad show. And I think it supports a good cause. I mean, that was the main thing here is there's so many guys like us that are total nerds for bikes, and I miss going to the shows. For me personally, man, that's my job. That's my gig. I usually am out right now. I should be out traveling to a couple events, this coming up weekend, and unfortunately not being able to do that. But this kind of gives me that, that feeling again. I get to go check out all these different bikes. We're going to have some bands and stuff, I think, featured. There'll be all sorts of great stuff to do through that week and check out. So,
yeah, I think so, man. The other thing too is there's a lot of people, regardless of the pandemic or not, that can't get out and go to shows. They just can't do it for whatever reason. Maybe they're in the military or they're just, got a big family and they just can't do it. So being able to see some of these things, some of these guys and what they're doing, in the way you guys are laying it all out, I think is going to be super cool, number one. And I think it's going to probably continue on and grow well past this pandemic, and who knows what it could turn into down the road. But I love it.
I know you talked about the time frame of your life when motorcycles kind of got you. This dude, buddy of yours, rolled up on this old Triumph chopper, and that kind of sparked an interest. And then eventually you kind of went down your own path and started diving deeper into the vintage stuff and getting more knowledge and hanging out with guys that could, teach you a little bit more about that stuff. But while you were doing all that, you're obviously riding a lot, right? And I know that's how it was for me too. When I first started riding, man, it was all I wanted to do was get on my bike and go ride. So I'm just wondering, like, what does riding mean to you? And why do you ride motorcycles? Like, what does that do for you?
Well, first of all, once I got my bikes going, I couldn't even believe that they actually worked. So being able to ride them was kind of a big feat, but probably the best thing for me in riding is just being with your friends. Being on a motorcycle, you see so much more than you do in a car. So, riding around in the hills or the mountains or the country or going on some ride on a bike, I mean, it's so much, you're so much more aware of what's going on around you and you appreciate everything a little bit more. But, having your buddies with you, whether you're on old bikes or new bikes on some trip, I mean, I think that's what does it for me. Besides the feel and the smell and, the visual and all that, and, having that motor underneath you and feeling like you can go 100 miles an hour, and like you're flying, I think just being with all your friends and all having a good time together, probably means the most to me, about the riding situation.